Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Ferry Show. I'm going a little crazy on this one. If you're 45, you're too old for this show. Hey, welcome to the Tom Ferry Show. I get asked a lot of questions from people on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, email, text, DMs. And I thought what I would do today, and my team set aside for me, were 4 questions from people that were 19 to early stage, millennials. And I know as I say that, maybe you're watching me right now on YouTube and you're like, you're old, you're 40. What I'm going to encourage you to do is listen to the answers through your filter of the world, or maybe just maybe turn this off and go to the next one, or better yet, maybe send it to somebody you know who's in their 20s. So the first question I got asked was from, and I'm going to totally mess this up on Instagram, from Yogi D, I'll just call you. Suggestion for a 19-year-old with no money. So I can remember being 18 in a very similar situation, so it wasn't that long ago. The difference though is today, if you're sitting here today, you're 19, you're 29, you're 39, you're 49, you have so many more ways that you can make money today than certainly when I was 19. First and foremost, I'd say to you, I don't know, can you get Uber? Can you become a Lyft driver? Is that an option for you? Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, going to garage sales, buying stuff on the cheap and selling it on eBay. That's certainly an option. But I'm going to assume you're somehow in the real estate space, or someone, maybe your parents are in the real estate space. I don't know. But I know this. In certain states around the world, certain countries around the world, you could go work for a real estate professional where you can make phone calls on their behalf and get paid as an ISA. If you took the time to get licensed, and maybe you are, I don't know, you could become their full-time appointment setter where you're working for an extraordinary agent who's able to show you the ropes and help you mature into the business and get paid in the process. So the deal is today, there's an unlimited way of making money in real estate and in other industries. You just got to be resourceful. Now, I'm going to flip the switch though on you, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've ever shared this. My mentor, Bill Mitchell, passed away last September, and just mentor of relationship and life and marriage and so much more, was the safety net when I started my company 15 and a half years ago. I remember sitting down and when I was probably 20, 21 years old and, like you, ambitious, thinking about my goals, thinking about dreams, aspirations for greatness. And I remember asking Bill, Bill, what should I be focusing on right now? I really want to make a lot of money. And he actually pulled me aside and he kind of put his arm around my shoulder and he said, Tom, don't think about money until you're above the age of 30. And I remember thinking, here's this guy, wildly successful, retired multiple times, and he's telling me as a young sales guy, don't think about money, don't think about commissions, don't think about deals. And I was like, you're out of your mind. And then he said, Tom, listen to me. Think about becoming the kind of guy that could be worthy of making the money that you desire. Spend the next couple years just on improving yourself, delivering your service, honing your craft, honing your message, becoming the kind of person that would be worthy of the money. He said, your peak earning years are when you're in your 50s and 60s. That's the reality. Look at the studies. He said, so you're thinking about money at 19, you're thinking about money in your early 20s. His advice would be, make sure you get enough to take care of your life. But don't be so focused on those crazy ambitious goals, perhaps, but instead think about, who do you need to become? Because Jim Rohn, another one of my mentors, said, your income is in direct correlation to the value you deliver to the marketplace. And perhaps at 19 or 20 or 23, you haven't figured out how to deliver the value to the marketplace that you need because maybe you don't have the skills. So that's my first answer for you to kind of an interesting question. I also got kind of randomly from Renell Warrior 2016, how can I get more likes and follows on Facebook and Instagram? I'm trying to change the world over here. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are experts in Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff. And, I pride myself on being relatively savvy. I'm still very old school in that I do it all myself, right? My team will do some videos and stuff on my Instagram page, but I'm the one that's responding because it's emojis, it's arms, it's, the heart and the little poop thing. Here's the thing I know. If you play the game with the hashtags, things like hashtag follow me, hashtag like for like, there is a ton of hashtags that you can add to your posts, and other people are out there and they're gonna follow you because they're following that post, and of course they're gonna expect to be followed in return. So that's an easy, simple hack that anybody could do. The second thing though I would recommend is, why don't you first find all the people that you know and follow them and send them a DM and like their photos. The way I got started early on Facebook, which now feels like a million years ago, is I would literally spend a day off all day going through Facebook, figuring out who do I know, who do I not know, who knows that I know, that who doesn't know that I know, and I'm making, friend requests and I'm sending. It was totally ghetto. And I remember my wife saying to me, "You're spending a lot of time on Facebook," and my response was, "Yeah, but this is where all my clients are, it's where all my friends are, and this is where all my prospects are." And I will tell you, the early stages of doing that, kind of scaling the unscalable, gave me a tremendous advantage because people knew if they sent me a private message, it was me responding and I was engaging on that level. So the thing I would tell you, beyond the obvious, create interesting content, bring value to others, follow the hashtag trends. That's really important. On my team, they'll just copy and paste the 7, 8, 10, 15 most important hashtags that we want to pay attention to. So every time I do a post, bam, I can just auto post it, copy paste, and play it out there. So that's super easy. But the big one is engage with the people you want to be friends with. Send them private messages, follow them, like their comments, make comments about the things that they're doing, and everyone else that maybe likes them as well will follow you as well. So that's kind of an easy one. Okay, this one is kind of heavy. Overwatch Merchant. I love these names, right? By the way, here's just a little simple strategy. You might want to own your own name on all the social channels. Overwatch Merchant. I know that means something to you. Tom, what advice do you have for millennials that haven't figured out their life's purpose yet? Well, that's a question that has a lot of meaning to me. I don't think, how do I say this best? There's like multiple kinds of people on this planet. There's people that don't have the self-awareness to ever even think about what is my life's purpose, why am I on this planet? Then there's a group of people that are constantly saying, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what my purpose is, I got to figure it out, I don't know what my purpose is. And then there's this small segment of the population that understands why they're here and they just go deliver every single day. Not all of them are in business. Some of them are teaching. Some of them are doctors. Some of them are counselors. Some of them are coaches. Some of them are real estate agents. Like they figured it out. I will tell you, another one of my mentors, this kind of feels like one of the mentor shows, was a guy named Mike Vance. And you probably grew up on his products as I did. He was the first dean of the Disney University. He was Walt Disney's right-hand guy for the last 8 years of Walt's life. If you read any of the books on the Disney stories, you'll constantly see this name, Mike Vance. He was in charge of ideas and people development for the Walt Disney Corporation. He launched Orlando after Walt passed away, and then eventually left the company and out sort of speaking about his experience of working with Walt Disney and doing these amazing things because he was an incredible guy. He was sitting one day in a seminar in like Santa Monica, California, and a nice guy walks up and he says, "Hey, I just watched your presentation, totally amazing. I got this 19-year-old kid that I'm working with. He's building this computer and I think he's really into Disney and I think we could do something together. You should Google this guy's name. His name was Mike Markkula. He was the first investor in a little company called Apple Computer." Yeah, he did okay. And guess what? When Mike ended up working with Steve Jobs, which he did for several decades, consulting and coaching and developing and mentoring, he always had the same process with everyone he worked with. When I hired him for the first time in 2002, I remember flying out to Miami and I'm flying over there, very expensive coach consultant, this guy's big time, right? So, man, I'm focused. I got my notepad and I'm writing all the questions I want to ask him. And I probably had 25, 30 questions that were, how do I do this? And what do you recommend here? And how do you do this? And I remember asking him the very first question, which is, you worked with Walt Disney. You worked with Steve Jobs, Jack Welch. You invented the salad bar. And Mother Teresa was someone you talked to on a regular basis. Like, just the context of the conversations, the arc of perspective you have is insane. And I remember saying to him, what do all these people have in common? Like, what is it that makes them tick? And, Mike was very tall, big hair, lots of energy, big smile. And he said, they've all answered the 5 fundamental questions and they live by them. And I was like, Okay. And he's like, what's your next question? Well, of course, my question was, what are the 5 fundamental questions that these extraordinary men and women live by? Now, whether you're 55, 85, or 18, and you're watching this, consider these 5 questions. He said to me, number 1, Tom, they've answered the question, what is my purpose? Which he would say, what is your calling? What makes your heart sing? What would you do just every single day because it just means something to you, it matters to you? And he said, the essence of it might not be, like perfect, but you kind of know, like you know. He said, so the first thing is they've all answered the question, what is my purpose? What's the essence of what I want? Like, who am I? Why am I on this planet? And just shut up and listen. And then he said, the second question is, they all answered, what are my God-given talents? What do I do so well that it's effortless, that I could do it all day long, and whether there was money or not, it feels good to do it, it makes a difference when I do it, and I'm really good at it. What are your God-given talents? Or just, what's your natural DNA? What were you built to do? And then he said, question number 3, they've all answered, what are my values? Now think about that question. I don't mean like do I value honesty, integrity, truth, justice, whatever it may be, though all of that is a part of it. He said, if you don't take the time to answer, what do I value? You never take the time to say, what is the filter I'm going to listen through? And therefore, everything that gets presented to you could be a really good idea. He said, what made these people extraordinary is because they were so clear on their values, what mattered to them, and even a priority of what mattered to them, that when they were presented something was offered to them, a meeting, do you want to meet this person? Do you want to start this new business? They could say yes or no based upon their values, which means their life was easier. Things were simpler. They could make decisions faster. Really important one. And then he said, number 4, they'd all taken the time to answer this question. It's 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. How is the world experiencing you? Now think about that question. You're 19 or 20, you're 22, you're 85, right? It's 5 years from now. It's 10 years from now. It's 20 years from now. How is the world experiencing you? As he's asking me these questions, you can imagine, I went from like all these questions that I wanted to ask him. I am now just writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and thinking about and by the way, I couldn't answer that first one, what's my purpose? But I was able to answer the question, how is the world experiencing me in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I was like, New York Times bestseller. I barely got out of high school. Now I'm like, I'm gonna be a New York Times bestseller. Check, did that one. I'm gonna have this business where I help all these people all over the world. Check, did that one. I'm gonna touch, hundreds of thousands of people, on the internet and all these different ways. I had no idea what I was talking about in 2002 when I was talking about this, but I was writing all that stuff down like I hope you are as well. But then he asked me the most important question. He said, Tom, they all figured out one thing. They all answered, who would I be if I was already there? And I was like, I'd never heard it like that before. So I said, what do you mean being? And he said, Tom, there's an old model of the world that you probably lived in, which is people tell you if you do a lot, then one day you'll have a lot, and then one day you could be happy. You could be successful. You could be of value. And he said, in that model of the world, what happens is right before you die, you finally get there. And he said, that model of the world is not the model of the world that Walt Disney lived in, certainly not Steve Jobs, definitely not Mother Teresa, and even Neutron Jack Welch. He said, they all lived in this model of the world. Be. Who do I need to be? Why not be happy now? Why not be grateful now? Why not be of service now? And then the doing part was natural and automatic, and the have was just the natural result of the being choices they were making and all the actions they were taking, so the results were just a natural byproduct. So if you think about these 5 questions, and this might be heavy for you, and I don't know, maybe you're 18, maybe you're 23, I have no idea. But I know I was in my early 30s when I finally took the time to do the self-discovery process to answer those questions, and the purpose got clearer and clearer over about 2 years for me, when I just kept journaling and writing and, why am I here, and what's my natural gifts, and what's my DNA, and what do I value, and then how do I see myself in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And what happens is when you start doing all that, and then you answer, who would I be if I was already there? Then all of a sudden I was like, I'd be energetic, I'd be more passionate, I'd be more of value. I'd contribute more. I would have less constraints on time and more focus and concentration on the people I'm with in the moment. And you start writing all these things down, and then the doing, the activities become more natural. So I know your question was, how do I discover my purpose? I don't know. Go to India, smoke weed, and meditate for a month? I don't know. Other than asking yourself over, I don't know if I've ever said smoke weed on the Tom Ferry Show before. That could be really fun. I can't wait to read the comments. It's in California. It's now legal in all of Canada, so that's kind of nutty. But check it out. There's no simple way to do it other than to take the time to write and to think and ask yourself over and over and over. And when your mind's like, I don't know, say if you did know, lie to yourself. What would it be? Why are you on this planet? Why do you exist? And when you keep saying that over and over again and you ask it in a way where you expect a result, it's going to get clearer and clearer and clearer. And again, whether you're 19 or you're 95, once you know, everything in your world shifts and life just becomes a whole lot more fun. So, kind of a funky Tom Ferry show, hanging out in a presidential suite here in Baltimore, like with my two guys sitting across from me and my buddies over there ready for dinner. I hope I brought you some value. I know this was a different show. You might want to send this to a 19-year-old. You might want to send it to your 15-year-old. I don't know. But by answering these questions, what I do know is they will become a part of that very special, small percentage of the planet that know why they're here. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to see your comments. Remember always, your strategy matters, and now more than ever, your passion absolutely rules. Hey, it's Coach Tom Ferry. Have you been considering hiring a coach? If so, click the link below and check out what we do.